And welcome to today's update. In today's video, we'll be discussing the latest news going on the front lines of Ukraine. So without further ado, let's get into it. Let's first start off with the Polish-Ukraine border, where according to this report, the Polish have officially started handing over Ukrainian men that illegally crossed the border into Poland to avoid the draft, to avoid being conscripted into the Ukrainian military. After that, let's head on to Kyiv, where we have basically Zelensky was giving a speech, and there were air sirens while he was giving the speech. So basically, according to some reports, there were some missiles fired close in range to where air sirens would trigger in Kyiv. Now let's move to Kherson direction, which I have said for a long time, over a month now, this will be the next place of a Ukrainian offensive. May not be the 2025 counteroffensive, but it will be a Ukrainian offensive. If we just look at the amount of drone footage from today, obviously on YouTube, I apologize, but some of this stuff will be censored because YouTube is very strict on showing this type of footage on their platform. However, you can check out the uncensored version on my Rumble channel. It's completely free. You don't have to pay anything. All you really have to do is click on the link. So as you can see on this footage, the Ukrainians are basically clearing the Russians out. They're this like prepping ops if I've ever seen any. There's a lot of them going on. There's a lot of bombs, but not only FPV drones, but the Ukrainians are actually using artillery. They're using artillery just a couple of days ago, bombing these Russian positions. So basically, this is shaping ops. They're trying to destroy as much as they can from the Russians before they launch this offensive. I don't know when they're going to launch this offensive. I thought it would be earlier, but obviously not. I believe since Western aid has arrived, they are officially going to launch this very shortly. I would say either late May, mid-May. I don't think it's going to be after May. I think this is coming very soon. As you can see on these trenches, these aren't the type of trenches you will see in Zaporizhia. These trenches, I guess you can call them trenches because technically that's what they are, but they're not very deep. There's like no positions for gunners that I can see over here. The soldiers do not look as high cut as they are in, let's say, Donbass. This is the best place for Ukraine to strike. Just look at those defensive lines. Those will be we see no dragon's teeth. We see no obstacles for the Ukrainians once they get past the river. And I think the reason why there are no obstacles is because Russia believes, or at least believed before Krynky, that the biggest obstacle that would stop the Ukrainians would be the river, and the amphibious landings are usually costly and very risky. However, we've seen through history examples like D-Day and in the Korean War that amphibious landings can pay off. It can be very risky. It is very risky, but they can pay off with a huge they can have a huge payoff. In Robotine, it has been silent compared to the previous days. We have Russians bombing Ukrainian positions near the fields near Robotine. So Robotine is basically, I would say right now, I know this map shows it in red and some maps show Ukrainian control over Robotine. I really don't think anybody really controls the settlement right now. I think it's literally in the gray zone, and the reason being is because everything's destroyed. All the soldiers can do is chill in the basements of the buildings, which is safe. However, I don't think there are enough Russian soldiers or Ukrainian soldiers in Robotine to say this side has this village under their control, this part of the village. Now moving on to Stomanovsky and Orozhine area, we got reports from very reliable mappers such as Syriac Maps and other unreliable mappers like these pro-Russian mappers that the Russians managed to gain a foothold over here in the area. This map shows it a little bit different. If we zoom on into the area, you can see that this map shows a little more than what Syriac Maps reported. However, if we would take to adjust this map, it would probably look something like this, where the Russians have taken part of Stomanovsky. They tried to go to Orozhine. According to the latest news we have in video evidence, they were pushed back. So I think they're going to try to go from here and try to flank the Ukrainians. And the Russian basic goal, and it has been working lately. The basic plan is to stretch the Ukrainian forces, stretch the Ukrainian lines, so they will attack 2 towns at once, knowing that the Ukrainians do not have the manpower. And back then, and probably still now in some cases, the artillery or the firepower to stop both attacks from both directions at the same time. And that's basically Russia's plan and their tactics right now. In Novomihailovka, we have no action ever since the Russian failed motorcycle assault. However, we do have a destroyed howitzer just behind the village. And it's basically Russia, if you will see throughout the whole entire map, Russia is destroying a lot of Ukrainian artillery pieces like mortars, howitzers. There's been a lot destroyed today. I would say like 5 or 6. Now moving on to Krasnogorivka, where we have video evidence. We gotten people saying this on the maps, but we now have video confirmation, although this video has an error and it's not showing, of Ukrainian drone strikes in this area, which means it's under Russian control. Again, the Ukrainians or the Russians are not going to be bombing themselves. There are some reports that the Ukrainians are abandoning the settlement. I would not say these reports are valid unless we see geolocated footage by either the Russians or the Ukrainians, geolocated footage of them abandoning. Now let's move to Avdiivka sector. Once again, Russia has taken a town. They did stall for a bit, but they have taken this village over here. As you can see, this is a little piece of how they were doing it. And then at the end of the video, we can see the Soviet flag. I believe that's a Soviet flag. It's a red. It could be a unit's flag, a brigade's or battalion's flag, on the statue straight in the center. So a lot of people are saying because it's in the center, the town has completely fallen. I have no reason not to believe it. Usually soldiers, when they capture the town, will show it at the center or at the very end. So there's no video geolocations of them at the very end of the town, but I would just assume that if a soldier had the time to put down a statue, there's probably no resistance coming from the opponent's side. Again, both sides all attacking each other with FPV drones. There's a lot of this footage, so we're obviously not going to look through all of it. The Ukrainians all attacking the Russians in their logistic lines. This is what I pointed out in a previous video. The Russian logistic lines have gotten longer, which means to send troops from Avdiivka kind of contact would be risky at best. It is a pretty long journey from Avdiivka to the current line of contact, which is around 12 kilometers, so 7.8 miles. That gives drone operators enough time to see where you are and to strike. Now let's move to Klishivka, where the Russians are bombing the area, but they're really not doing anything more in trying to attack the area. They did try a couple days ago, but it was a failure, like all their attacks on Klishivka have been. Now moving on to this area over here, we have Russians bombing this area heavily. Again, no attacks as of yet, but they are bombing, which could be preparations for something. Now, the Russians did post that they had, and this is what this thing says, I'll just read it for you. Success at the front. The Russian armed forces broke through the AFU, which is Armed Forces of Ukraine's defenses in the village. The fighting began there on April 28th. On the same day, Sersky called the situation in this territory complicated. Now, this is video footage of the attack. So the Russians are claiming that they were pretty successful, but the Ukrainians actually have video footage to kind of deny their claim. It's, again, artillery, which is great to see from the Ukrainian side. We did not see that for a while because of the lack of artillery, because the Ukrainians were not given the US aid when they needed it. It's great to see the Ukrainians using artillery again, and that Russian vehicle was destroyed. I don't know if that was artillery or mine. I'm going to say that was artillery. Yeah, that definitely was artillery. And as you can see, the Russian attack was stopped dead in its tracks. And unfortunately for the Russians, likely the men inside the vehicles all currently pushing up daisies in that area. Anyway, moving on to this area of the front line, which is going to be pretty active soon, according to many people. The Ukrainians were just striking a tower. But if you, and some vehicles over here, I believe that's a vehicle position for artillery. That's artillery, sorry. But if you look at this, this doesn't seem to look like a concentration of Russian forces over here. So I don't know. We haven't seen a lot of satellite imagery to actually say how many Russians are here. According to the Ukrainians, there's around 50,000. And their goal is not to take Kharkov or anything like that. Their goal is to take is to just cause chaos, so they will keep Ukrainian forces here to exploit some breakthroughs that they are having in the Donbass. So that's basically it for today's update, guys. If you guys enjoyed this update, please subscribe to this YouTube channel, comment your thoughts down below, and like this video as well. Again, if you want to see the uncensored version, it's on my Rumble page. I forgot to mention this, but it seems like the whole Crimea, Ukrainians were going to attack Crimea during this victory day. If we don't see that in a couple of days, I'll say that was just the Russians being very scared of it and just posting fake news that it could happen, or posting their opinions that just were not right. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching this video, and bye.